bad. And
so, unlike police, you're not out there just trying to get certain information. You're trying to, and I'm not saying that police only try to get certain information, but you said, you know, they have a theory that they go by with their, and that could direct their questioning. You need to get everything, so not only can you prepare, but you can forewarn an attorney if it's not going to go in their way.
That's correct. I mean, you know, a defense investigator has, unlike law enforcement, you know, unfortunately law enforcement is typically over-assigned. I mean, a typical police detective is, you know, getting a couple, three cases, and so they only have a certain amount of time, and so they kind of have this tunnel vision, and they pursue a theory, and they're trying to support it. I have the luxury in a well-funded case to go out there and, you know, I'm not against a time constraint other than an upcoming hearing or a trial date or something like that.
But how do you decipher in these interviews who's being truthful and who might just want to associate themselves with a case, especially if it's high profile?
You know, generally you can, the statement itself, whether they were in a position, I mean, there's some degree of corroboration that's going to become necessary. I mean, you wind up corroborating things 1, 2, 3 different times over. If you've interviewed 2 or 3 witnesses that are supposed to have kind of similar perspective on things, and one is just way far askew, then, you know, perhaps they weren't necessarily there to have made the particular observations that they're offering, or you've learned from another witness that that person was never even part of a particular group, they've never heard of them, and so it tends to ferret itself out.
And, you know, in this case, there are so many accusers. How problematic is that for the defense, in your opinion? And how problematic would it be for you when you're investigating the case? Well,
you know, last week we kind of touched on this with Ryan and Mike. And on the one hand, you know, there's an old saying in the defense side of things, and that is, you know, you can, when you have numbers like this, you can figuratively kill off each witness one at a time on the stand and discredit them. But eventually you might drown in dead bodies. And so that's the danger with that. On the other hand, with regard to the theory that Amendola is pursuing, and he seems to have advanced yesterday, and that is that the reason that there's a number of them and the reason they're all sounding very similar is this coaching that went on by law enforcement. And it seems like he actually got some traction with that yesterday. He got these troopers to make some admissions. We heard, I think, on some audio tape about the fact that you know, these accusers were being told, you're not alone. We know that there was oral sex and touching and feeling, and so, and it seems he also made some traction on the fact that their stories have evolved. Initially, there was certain denials about certain activities, and then gradually the stories evolved, and they all became pretty similar. And so, you know, that's the interesting thing. You know, that's what they have to evaluate this morning as to whether he's going to testify or not, is this progress, this so-called best day for the defense yesterday, whether enough traction, enough headway was made to generate reasonable doubt in this case, that they want to risk all of that by putting Sandusky on, and at which point he assumes the entire burden for his own exoneration.
Yeah, in fact, I want to talk to you about that more in our next day. Charles is going to be with us in the next hour as well, so we'll talk further about Jerry Sandusky taking the stand and your role in court, too, during these cases. Thank you, Charles.
My pleasure.
Good to have you here.